and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Talking Horses. Sarah El-Badwi joining me, Andy Serling. Sarah, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, great to be here.
Yeah, nice to have you. We're in the middle of the Dubai World Cup races. We just want to let people know. I think the scheduled post for the World Cup's around 12:35. They're usually very punctual. We're going to break right as they're going to the gate for that race. So we want you to watch both. We don't want to deprive you of the World Cup, which, by the way, we're showing on FS2 right now. Greg Wolf is upstairs. We're basically showing the coverage. Greg's holding down the fort for us, which we appreciate, but we also want you to watch the show and the World Cup. We just saw the favorite. I mean, I don't know anything about that horse, but he won like a 3 to 5 shot should in a $5 million race. A lot to talk about, though. 10 races today, so we'll get right to work. Head over to NYRA Bets. If you're not a member of NYRA Bets, no better time than the present. Use the promo code BONUS200. We'll match with $200 of your initial deposit. We have a middle pick 4, starts in race 4 of our 10 race card today. 2, 4, and 7 on the pick 4s today. We also have cross country pick 5. That's going to be 3 from Aqueduct, 8, 9, and 10 and 11 from Oaklawn. There is no America's Day at the Races show today, so those races we will be showing, I guess, will be on YouTube. I'll be doing some prattles between many of the races. Maggie is off this week. So you're stuck with me. It's the way it goes. I won't apologize. I feel a little bad, though. Bet 50 to win on the Louisiana Derby today. Get $20 towards your Derby bankroll. Of course, you got to opt in for that to make sure, and that's the Louisiana Derby. I think that post, is that like 6:30? Is that? I'm not sure.
Very late at nighttime.
No, it's not as late as last one, right? Didn't they?
True, but I mean, we also have daylight savings, so.
What are they doing with 3? Is it 3 races?
3 races after. You know, it just made too much sense to end at race 12. We had to go all the way to 15.
Tomorrow's their last day, though, I think, right?
I believe so.
I think it is. Anyway, that's it for us in that race. We're for now. Bye. Race number 1, I think Sarah and I have the same plan in here. We want to bet against Melting Snow, who's a sort of preposterous 1 to 5 right now. We'll show the last race by Melting Snow. And in my opinion, this horse is about as dressed up by circumstance as a horse can be.
Look, I mean, this is, I would say, the horse to beat. However, this price is absolutely ridiculous. As you choke
Smoke
on
her out as the horse to beat here,
yeah,
Sarah.
I know. So creative of me in this 6-horse field. Yep.
Really?
Just here to make you choke on your coffee.
I don't drink coffee, it's tea.
Tea, sorry, my mistake. I mean, she's been able to get the job done in several of her past few races, but I think that the company she's been facing has been a little suspect, and this price, as you mentioned, is just way, way, way too short to take this horse on top, so I know we both have some interest in Alarm Clock.
Yeah, in fairness, she wasn't on the rail last time. The rail was the place to be, but she's had pretty cozy trips on the right kind of racetracks for her, and I'm just not sure how good she really is. We both took Alarm Clock. Go ahead.
I mean, this one was facing males a couple races ago in a similar spot to today, except that she was against tougher company and horses like Oh Trouble and Durkin's Call. I mean, now she's with Ray Handel, who doesn't have excellent numbers first off the claim, but he was able to turn around Daddy Knows, who we'll see later on the card today. So I thought that this one was kind of the one you wanted to take a shot against this short price favorite, and I know that you agree as well.
I agree. She's been in good form. I thought she's been running reasonably well. I mean, you look at who she ran against last time, they're better than these horses, Customer Experience and Baba. You know, the favorite notwithstanding, and as you said, neither one of us are saying we don't think the favorite can win. I just feel like she's really dressed up. I'm going to even use Quality Stones a little bit. I just kind of want to get away from this favorite. You know, Quality Stones was not on the rail, but towards the best part of the track. But that was a tougher field last time as well. And I just would rather take horses that have been running against better horses than a horse that's dressed up by running against weaker horses having the run of the races. We'll see how it works out. We're going to try to beat Melting Snow. The other thing about Melting Snow is, isn't Quality Stones faster?
I would agree with that.
She's supposed to get in front of her. I think they're supposed to be aggressive and try to get in front of her and make Melting Snow have to work to get the win.
Absolutely, and there's other pace types in here too. So I thought along those lines as well. I thought Alarm Clock would sit a good stalking trip and perhaps can turn the tables on this currently 1 to 5.
So speaking of short priced horses, David has Print Rack in race number 2, the 4 to 5 favorite. We'll take a look at Print Rack. This is last time out, finishing second behind Ragtime Blues, and was a very fast race, but you know, Rob claims out of a race that came up super fast. Horses have run out of that race to back up the big number in there. And now he runs the horse for 12.5. When he wins, I won't be surprised. I wouldn't let this horse beat me if I had some ideas in a multi-race bet. But he's a tough horse to take on top for me.
Well, and isn't Poppy's Pride going to pressure him as well, right to his outside?
One would think that Poppy's Pride's going to go in this race. He might even be faster.
Right, and so, I mean, this one makes sense. I get why he's the 4 to 5 favorite if he takes a step up. First time for the Atras barn.
That's not happening. He's not going to take a step up, dropping it for 12-5.
I would be surprised if it
I don't
happens,
even
but
think Rob would tell you he was
just
going
in
to.
general, horses tend to take a step up when they move to this barn. I don't really see that in this specific case, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, he has speed. If you want a speed, I think he's the one. We both picked him second, but I don't know. I thought that this was a suspicious move, to say the least, and I'm not totally convinced of his cinch ability in here.
He's also a funny horse in that while he has some fast figures, he's got a plethora of mediocre numbers as well, and he's a horse that can be a little bit faint-hearted at times. And as you say with Poppy's Pride, he could take some real pressure in here. But speaking of drop downs, you're going to take another severe drop down in this race in Silippo.
Yeah, his last 3 races before the break are concerning.
I think I picked him in every one of them. I guarantee I picked him in at least 2 of them.
I know that you were a big
guarantee I had at
fan of
least
this
2.
horse because I remember you complaining that you missed him at Parks when he went over there and he broke his maiden at
We're
a big
done.
price.
We're done. We divorced. Relationship is over.
All right, so he's mine now.
He's all yours.
But if he doesn't get the job done today, or at least run well, and maybe he's neither of ours in here. I do like that he's had more time off since those 3 races where he tried to come back. It seems like it was needed. Now he's taking another drop. Doesn't he kind of sit the trip?
He's not taking another drop. He's taking an absolute plunge. I mean, he's not, I mean, this horse has been off for 6 months and is now dropping down near the bottom.
Yeah.
And this is going to be about the bottom in a couple of weeks, I think.
Sure.
I looked up some stats.
They're not good.
somewhat neutral. They're not great, but they're not terrible. Linda, 4 to 8 month layoffs on the dirt. She's 15% $1.50 and a 50% drop. It's a very small sample size. She's only 2 for 12. So the 96% ROI. So she hasn't done it. And the interesting thing is, it's a very small sample size, so I'm not going to make anything of it because she could have run 2 more before for 14.
Sure.
That's why I didn't put it up. Those stats are fairly meaningless. But I will say, while the ROI normally isn't good on big drop downs for her, the percentage is usually pretty high. So that bothers me a little bit, the layoff and the drop down with this horse.
Yeah, I wasn't impressed by the stats for this particular situation either. To me, it was kind of like, doesn't he just sit the trip if he can run it all anymore? If we have Print Track going, if Poppy's Pride does as well.
He's gonna win, but I don't know. I even think Bourbon Bay is a little interesting. I know he fell apart last week, but he was going a mile. That pace was a really serious duel between those 2 horses. I know that my friend's Beer was sitting 3rd, but a distant 3rd, and drew off and the pace collapsed. I will say that part of the reason, and I think Double Shot can win, but I'm a little concerned with Double Shot. I know the pace held together last time, but it didn't 2-back. The winner came from well back. He didn't run that day, and I'm starting to wonder if he's kind of coming to reaching the end of his rope a little bit. I know he's dropping, and like I said, I got him 4th. You have him 3rd. I'm a little concerned about his last 2 races combined. As far as Liam's Fire, I will say part of the reason that I took this horse was that I do think he moves up on a wet track, and the weather report had it being sloppy by this race. Now, as it turns out, we're getting kind of lucky. There's going to be some rain today, but it's looking closer to 1/3 of an inch than anything else.
Right.
And probably going to be fine at least through the first part of the card, as far as it having a great effect on the racetrack. But doesn't this feel like kind of an interesting horse on your principle of the race falling apart?
Sure.
You look at the last race. Wide going a mile against better horses on a gold rail. The time before that, out of nowhere, tougher field, a race where the pace completely held together. And I think this is a race that both you and I feel the pace could fall apart.
I do agree. You're not a big wet track move up person, so
Well, I thought there was a case to be made for it based on those merits, and the fact that that there was a real possibility it was a wet track only helped that cause. That was all. I'm never going to pick a horse just because I don't do that right.
So,
and I think there's a case to be made for this horse.
Sure, I agree completely, and I think the numbers for Mirsha Shockley on the cutback routes to sprints is also pretty decent as well. She's 27%, so this was one that if the pace did fall apart, which could happen in here, this
You're not
is
really
one.
quoting the shirt stats in the show, are you, and expecting to get away with it?
Oh, never.
I mean, you've been on like 5 or 6 times. It's time
You have
for
to
me
call me out
start
for
being
something.
mean. Race number 3, I scratched into for second a horse that I just loathe. And I realized it later, and we'll look at Patrick the Great on the outside, and thought maybe I should have changed my picks around when this horse scratched in for second. Because I just didn't really love BC Glory Days, who frankly should have won last time out, but may have found the right field. I don't know about you. I thought this race was right for a stranger. I can't even remember who you picked in this race.
In here, I feel as though Patrick the Great was definitely enhanced by the rail this day.
No
I
doubt.
mean, this performance and this figure were exaggerated, but I don't think he meets the toughest field here, even with an enhanced last out
pretty
performance. I know
I
he's pretty
know.
bad, but look around.
Did you pick him?
No, I
Thank
picked him
God.
third. I picked him further down than you did. I went to BC Glory Days, who at least has been consistent, even if consistently not winning.
Yeah, I get it. He can win. Don't you think he's going to take some real pressure from Basic Truth?
I think Basic Truth might be in front of him.
And isn't he a better horse when he's been able to air it out? I mean,
Sure.
look at his races.
But Basic Truth at least is more lightly raced, and perhaps if he gets to be forwardly placed in here,
Oh,
He
I'm
interested
not a
me.
big fan of Race Truth. You got him second. I'm not a big fan. I thought he beat a horrible field with the track in his favor. I know that the Cobbler arguably will beat BC Glory Days a better horse than these. I still feel like I want to give Life and Light a chance in here. You know, I was watching. First of all, this race is crying for a stranger. So immediately I was drawn to Life and Light because, and I normally don't go for these types, but you look at the one dirt race, and I think there's a fair argument to be made that he really just wanted more distance because he really was kind of running a little at the end. And I think there is an argument in there. It was a bad field, and I'm not defending his performance, that he probably was a horse that wasn't going to win at 6 furlongs first time out. Listen, his synthetic form's not any good, and Peace and Justice was a turf horse, so maybe it really is more of a turf synthetic type pedigree. But Bill Moore is a pretty sharp guy. He is shipping this horse here. He wants to run in the dirt, and he may want more distance. And if ever a race was crying out for a stranger, it's this race.
this is not a group of killers.
Right, so I went to him. Race number 4. There's a favorite in race number 4 that you and I just aren't going to try to beat. And we'll
No.
take a look at Can't Hurry Love's last race where she gets left. I have one question for you. Clearly, she was unlucky to lose this race. Nobody's
Yes.
going to deny it. But given the fact that it was a suicidal pace that ended up completely evaporating, is there at least a slight argument to be made that getting left didn't hurt her as much as the perception I think at least I had immediately after the race?
I think that that's a fair way to say it. I think that her being able to adapt to what was happening in front of her after that poor start shows that she ran the best race, clearly. But
Oh, not even close.
No,
I mean,
but-
because even if she was rating and didn't get left, she made the
She's
move that
still
broke the
close.
race open, and the race collapsed in the last stages.
absolutely. But at the same time, I mean, it's also not usually how far back she wants to be. She's making a further sustained run. I don't know. I mean, I think it's a fair question to ask, but I don't know that I really have an answer.
No, I think the answer is what you just said. She made a longer sustained run. Because you think about watching that start. I mean, she has to get immediately into stride, right? And she's the one horse, other than the horses up front, she was, along with the horses up front, the horse that was running hard the whole way. So I'd love to pick against her. Her
I would
last race
too.
was really good.
We just could not.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's talk about
What
the
else?
second horse let's talk about Respectfully, who I for some reason put in there, who you have third and I have nowhere. I'm going to tell you something. I am loath to bet a horse who only has basically a good race at Los Al. Where are the other decent dirt races from this horse? And maybe did this horse move up off the claim last time? Because where are the other races that are any good for this horse?
Oh, nowhere. This one was just one that I thought would have to be a pace presence yet again, breaking from the rail just like she did in here. Private purchase to Jacobson. I mean, that last race is, as you mentioned, an anomaly. But doesn't she have to go again?
Yeah, I think she's supposed to go, and I think that the 8's probably going to stalk here, sitting outside. I mean, the other thing is, isn't Lady Milagro pretty
She'll
fast
be
in
going.
here?
Sure.
I mean, David thinks she can wire the field, and to be fair,
She could.
she is the horse who set the pace in that ridiculous race that fell apart, and I probably should have had her a little bit higher in here.
Yeah. Yeah. But, I mean, Trust the Numbers, I think, is the only other interesting option to win if you are trying to beat Can't Hurry Love, unless Can't Hurry Love doesn't show up for some reason, which I don't really foresee happening.
I agree with you. We'll take a look at Can't Hurry Love, Trust the Number, his last race, where she got it done. And I'm going to show you a stat for Chad Brown. I know it's a relatively short-priced horse, but not the favorite. But I thought it was a very interesting stat, actually, for Trust the Numbers in here. And listen, she didn't beat that much in this race.
No, but she did it professionally.
And the numbers say that these horses, more often than not, in these kind of circumstances, off these long layoffs, they actually come back running for Chad Brown. The stat I'm going to put up is that 250-plus day layoffs in dirt sprints off of a maiden win, he's 8 for 18, and I think that's a surprising number, especially for him with dirt starters. Now, to be fair, they're 560 horses, and she's not going to be favored. I thought it was kind of interesting, and I think the stat says if you're worried about the layoff, this might give you some comfort.
Sure, absolutely. I think that if you are trying to beat Can't Hurry Love, this is the one that you want to do it with.
I want to give you if it rains and the track is wet, I think there is a very real argument that a Willoway, who's second off a layoff, has run far and away her best races on sloppy seal tracks. Now, I don't think it's going to thankfully affect us in this race, but I think it's something to think about if the rain starts coming down.
And I had the same thoughts, and they're written right here as well. That's why I also picked her fourth. I mean, if you foresee this pace heating up too, I think she's also a player to come running late and maybe hit the exact, well, not exact, but tries or supers underneath somewhere at a price.
See what happens in race number 4, 1 mile and 3/8 for race number 5. Is this the Stud Muffin? And I believe this race is the Stud Muffin. I don't have a program with me, but Stud Muffin was trained by the late. Thank you. It is. Thanks, guys. Stud Muffin was trained by the late Dominic Lucio. I always think of Dominic when we run this race. And if he was still alive, he'd probably have a number of starters today, and he'd probably win a number of races. So I went back 2 races on Good Skate and Total Impact, or see them running 1-2. You're going to take Good Skate on top just because you want to brag on the show that you picked him last time, and it was a great pick.
I wasn't even going to mention
yes, you were.
it.
Don't. I did it for you, so you didn't have to embarrass yourself.
You weren't even on Talking Horses.
No,
that
but
day,
I know. But we texted about it. So.
Well, you didn't even watch the show, so
That's correct. It's probably sleeping.
You may have done yourself a favor.
Either at the movies or sleeping.
Yeah.
Or something else.
Enjoying your Sunday.
Well, that's always debatable. I know the Good Skate seemingly has a pace advantage unless Uno wants to go on a mission. I don't care. I think Total Impact's better.
I don't disagree that he's probably the better horse. Does it bother you just a little bit that he hasn't had success in his races going further, and yet Good Skate has been able to handle up to 1.25 miles like he did last time when aggressively ridden, and now is cutting back a little bit slightly?
To Gasoline, who wired the field on a good rail, and he lost to Curlim's Wisdom, who came back and improved his buyer figure 4 points, being a pretty good field. Or running second, a pretty good field.
No.
No, I just think it was better competition. And the other problem that I have is that Good Skate rode a good rail last time.
He did.
So I think he's dressed up by circumstance in his last race, and Total Impact just easily beat him in that race.
And I don't think that we're going to see a replication of the figure that he ran last time. I do think that he was completely helped by the rail that day. To me, it was really just that he was able to show that new dimension of aggression early, and I think that now he's from the rail again. He's probably, well, he wasn't from the rail last time, but he is from the rail, and here he's likely to do the same thing.
Well, a couple of things. Yes, no question about it. It doesn't really matter at this point. They start the race at the top of the stretch, so the whole field has time. But I think that you look at his last race, and I think it's his last race is. And why people wonder why he paid $780, because Curbstone was like 1-5.
Yes.
This is why Manny Franco has been winning at 27% at this meet and is having the absolute best meet of his life, and why he is at a point where he is elevating himself, where he is now very much in the conversation with the best riders when they come back during the summer. He's always been one of the good riders here, but I think he's saying,
I agree.
You have to consider me when you talk about that group with this. And I don't mean this as a criticism of anyone else, but he's had a breakout year. And one of the reasons is he's being more aggressive.
And there is certainly a need for that at times.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's something that I'm surprised more riders don't take advantage of it. What do you do with locally owned, who, whatever you think of him, he's almost like the only other horse besides the 1-7 you can look at.
Exactly, and that's why he's my third pick, because there just wasn't really too much of an option for anybody else, because there's a lot of horses in here that really just don't fit with these top 2.
They don't look like they necessarily want the distance. They don't necessarily like they're good enough, but I'll tell you something about locally owned. His form has really gone off. And I originally was thinking about whether or not I could pick him on top, but it just seems like his best form is left, and he's not finishing his races. And I don't like that.
No, he concerns me.
Yeah, I'm not thrilled. Race number 6, as we take a little bit of a break from the starter races, and it is claiming championship
crown,
day, or it's not claiming
not.
crown, like claiming championship day or something. I'm big on that. It should be a festival. I miss the festival. So.
Well, it could be.
So
it is in Dubai.
We're both picking against Asmodeus, but it's probably for naught. The last race he ran was sensational. I don't want to. I'm not showing the start. A horse lost the rider. He didn't stumble at the start. I don't know. It was a bio bob. It didn't affect him at all. He broke like a shot. He not only was game to the wire, the rail was good this day. And the horse who beat him, Register, ran super for Dave Donk. I'm kind of worried. He hasn't come back since that race.
Register did run back, and he did not run back that well at Laurel.
Oh, he ran at Laurel?
But I think something may have gone wrong because he was
okay.
easy. He seems like he's okay, but I don't hold that race against him too much as far as what he came back to.
Huge
So,
race.
absolutely.
It was a crazy, crazy fast race. I mean, you see the figure. I remember when we ran it, judging it by other races that day, knowing it was fast. Are you against him, or do you just not want to take these connections, that race, and nothing against Bill Murray, but you're talking about taking 6-5, and I'm a little concerned he's not going to run back to that race. If he runs close to it, he's going to win.
Well, I don't think you want to take a horse that was 22-1 last time out, that did run a huge race, that was absolutely valid, that now is 8-5, maybe less. So I think there's enough going on outside of that horse that's at least worth discussing, and that's kind of what I based my selections off of. But I have no doubt that he's absolutely the one to beat, and a replication of that performance is going to be very tough to get past.
Why are you trying to beat him with Huntington?
It's Law Professor's baby brother.
And you and Law Professor went to college together or
No,
something?
not
There's
quite.
a story you want to share or something?
No, I just think it's an interesting first-time starter. I
Agreed.
mean, this one, the dam has only had that one horse to
There's
race.
3 foals, I think, and this is the
Yes.
only other one to race, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yep. And Law Professor, I mean, he debuted as a 3-year-old. His first start at the mile distance was his second start. He was able to win in there. I mean, he's won on turf and dirt just like the dam did as well. So
He's good.
even though this one might not get the job done today, and this is a very tough field to start your racing career against, I think that he's definitely worth following going forwards, even if he isn't a winner today.
And we talked about this in the show yesterday, and I've talked about it before. Rob Atras, he's kind of, I don't want to use unusual. Obviously, we've seen him improve horses off the claim, to say the least. He's had some very big runs, blah, blah, blah. But I think one thing about him that people don't notice, maybe they're starting to notice more, and we've talked about it quite a bit, is the work he does with firsters.
Sure.
His firsts are ready.
Yeah.
I mean, he won with one yesterday. It was a horrendous field. I'm not trying to, but he gets his firsters ready. And even when he doesn't win, you'll often see him have horses that seem to outrun their odds, or they're competitive in the races. So he has firsters ready. And when I first saw this horse, I said, why is Rob Reynolds running a mile first time? This horse must stink. And I saw the pedigree and realized why. So I agree. It's not an easy race for a firster. I do think he's more likely than the Brad Cox firster, First Money. They had an awful lot of money for this horse when you look at the pedigree. I mean, the dam produced 3 foals that didn't run. The second dam was good. The City of Light, obviously, he was a good racehorse, a new sire. That was his first prop. Ride Up is a horse I've always liked. I can't make up the difference, though, for him. I can make an excuse for Ride Up's last race where he got wired in the speed track. I can't make up the difference in his race 2 back.
And maybe you do come up with some excuses for this one and think that 4-1 is a fair price, as he has been a short price in his last 2 races. But for me, why would I take him over the 5? That was really
can't.
just what it was for me with him.
I'm very interested in Moore's Law in this race. And listen, he's obviously got to improve a great deal. He's got to improve to beat Ride Up. I actually thought he ran well. This horse was way back in that race. Now, you could say he was just sucking up for a piece, but I didn't really think...
I don't feel that way.
I didn't feel that way. I thought he made a huge outside run in that race, and I actually thought he ran pretty well in there. It was a fair track. I don't think he was hurt by the racetrack in any way, but a race was dominated on the front end. I know that Toxic Gray came back and didn't run close to the figure he earned, and he didn't run anywhere close to that number, but I liked the way Moore's Law ran. Now, are you familiar with Moore's Law, and do you know this? Moore's Law is the brainchild of Gordon Moore. Gordon Moore passed away yesterday, as it turned out. I tweeted actually his obituary, source running today. He was an original founder of Intel.
Oh, wow.
And Moore's Law, which he came up with in, I think, 65, is the theory that every 2 years, the amount of transistors that can be put into a chip will double. And this is 1965
And
we're
has that
talking
held
about.
true?
And then he sort of, apparently it did. It certainly did in the beginning stages. I don't know how it's gone as we've gotten, more and more advanced, but, and I think he amended it to include that it would end up costing more to produce these chips, but because computers would become so widespread, their prices would go down because they were selling so many of them and mass producing them.
Wow.
But so Moore's Law, Gordon Moore passed away yesterday. Isn't it appropriate that Moore's Law, I picked him before
Of course you
He
do.
was 94, by the way.
What an excellent prognosticator. I mean, maybe he should have gotten into handicapping.
I put up, his obituary is in the New York Times, by the way, I believe today, or it's definitely online, and I tweeted it out. It's actually kind of fascinating.
That's pretty cool.
I had read it whenever I see these horses, their Karlovich names, I like to look them up and see what it is. So I had looked it up in the past, but then a friend of mine who works here sent me the bit this
Interesting
morning.
stuff.
We don't like to just focus on horses. We'll talk about one more race as they're going to the track, and if we can get another one in, we will, because we do want you to watch the Dubai World Cup, but we want to be able to get into the races, because they're going to get a little more complicated as we get going on. Race number 7, not one of those races. To me, and you've gone, I guess to me it was 2.5 horses. You see it as 3. You're just going to take the 3 longer and 2 to wire the field.
That's kind of the hope. I mean, this one getting a jockey upgrade, I thought that he would be clearly the speed in here, but I have no knocks against Silly Key. I mean, he scratched not that long ago on the 12th. His races before that, he's been running exactly the same numbers.
Can we wait till we show the replay of him? I sent you the replay.
I won't
and
rush.
You're like way,
I know that you
way
want to talk about him because he's your top pick, but
I don't mind if you talk about him. I just want to.
oh, that's okay.
I want you to follow the script.
Please keep me up to date with the terms and conditions
The problem
of what
with
can and cannot happen.
I sent you the replays. Line 2 is that he rode a gold rail last time. And let me say something with the rider upgrade. Maddie Oliver would say that Dylan Davis is a better rider than she is. Maddie
She didn't do anything wrong. I know.
mean, you could argue that what she did was let this horse be what he wants to be, which is just run off.
Yes.
Basically. I worry about the fact that he's a horse that's dressed up by circumstance. That's what bothers me about him. But he
feel
has the speed.
As though he's at least progressively improved in his last couple of races, though.
Maybe he's improved since the claim for Oscar, but
He needs
maybe
to-
he's also.
he needs to keep improving.
Yeah, maybe he's also at circumstance. Well, I mean, he better improve if Easy Day runs back to this fig last time. Now, the reality is, and we'll take a look at Easy Day, I don't buy the 97, and I certainly don't buy it being predictive because he has the 192, but he's more of an 87 when things are going well for him. I have great respect for Scott Lake shipping him in, and he is in great form regardless, and if he runs a figure in the high 80s, he very well may win this race. And what he has over Silly Key is he has a lot more speed. So he is the horse in position to not get as hurt if Longwood 2 is able to keep running.
And I know sometimes it's a question on whether or not out-of-state form will transfer here, but he has run here twice and he's at least hit the board, although he hasn't been able to get the job done. So you can't say that he hasn't run competitively at Aqueduct like some park shippers.
No
they don't
question
quite
about it.
transfer their form here. I don't really buy that last time out figure either. I think that he will be sitting the better trip, as you mentioned, and you have to at least consider him, but I didn't really want him at 8-5.
Yeah, no, he's an odd horse because, as you say, he ran that 92 buyer here. Then he followed it up with a mediocre 74. He's not that reliable, but I think that he is extremely dangerous in this race. As far as Silly Key, and we'll take a look at his race 2 back when he just missed. I'm going to say something, and I was critical with other people that I thought Eric let him drop too far out of this race. I'm going to say I was wrong.
On record.
I actually think, I think if he just doesn't have speed anymore. He's a different horse than he used to be. And it may hurt him here, but the reality of it is maybe Eric, who is content to often let horses drift back and make a run, and it works sometimes for him and it doesn't other times, you look at his last race. The rider, you watch that last race. The rider rode him to stay up in that race. And subsequently, he had absolutely no finish whatsoever. And he should have. Even though the rail was good, he should have had some finish that day. So there may be a really strong argument, and that's why maybe Eric's back on him, but also is exoneration for people. And I was one that criticized him too. He may be a horse that you just have to let him find his own stride. And if that means he drops back and makes a run, you've got to live and die with that because he's not a horse that's going to respond if you ride him into the races anymore. I could be wrong about that, but if you look at his race 2 back, you look at last time, doesn't it make sense?
It does. Yeah, no, that's a theory that I could absolutely buy into, and he's run just fine on a wet track. If by race 7, that's what we're dealing with as well.
All right. Should we try to get one more race in? The
think we
guys
could
are on
do
the
it.
couch with the socks.
Oh, it is post time, however.
Yeah, but they're not. We'll stop when they're going the gate. We'll try race number 8 because we will want
could
to
at
talk
least
a
get
little
through
about
half
the
of
other
it.
one. What's that?
We could at least get through half of it.
It's good graphics they got right now. Race number 8. Let's start with Ragtime Blues, the 5 who we both have third. Who is the morning line favorite off that 94 fig? Do we trust him?
No, especially now leaving the Linda Rice barn. Nothing wrong with Michelle Giangiulio and 10 Strike. He is the horse to beat. I don't buy a 94.
I buy the fig.
I don't buy it coming back.
I don't buy his predicted. We already talked about this race. This number has proven to be accurate. I just don't trust him to run this kind of number again. And if he runs in the 80s, he can win, but he's nothing special.
And Two, there's others that are getting class relief in here, and this is a tougher group than Print Track and Striking Speed. So that's kind of why I wanted to stay at least a little bit away from this horse, but I don't have some sort of big problem with him. I just wanted somebody else at a bit of a better price.
Okay, I feel similarly to you. I mean, I think he can still run an 86 in here and still win the race, but it's tougher. The horse I'm not thrilled with, and like you, I have fourth, is Oh Trouble. And listen, he's been in terrific form. We'll go back 2 starts when he beat Durkin's Calls in here, and Durkin's Call got a great ride from Dylan Davis. He's the one that I really think is facing much better.
Right, and while he is seeking his 4th win in a row, he's running consistently around the mid-80s. He's also just facing a tougher field in here, and I think that's why we just both wanted him 4th, because he can win, but I don't want this one at 4-1 who's facing tougher company.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Horses coming off of big wins, I'm always a little skeptical of them. The horse that you have on top and I have second, Bezos, I brought up his race from 3 back when he lost to our friend Silly Key. I'll let you talk about him. I think he's dangerous too.
At least we know where he's going to be early, and I know that it says the blinkers are coming off in here, but as you see, here he is in front, no blinkers on. So I don't really think that equipment is going to make a big difference. He is going to go, and it's nice sometimes when you have a horse that is confirmed going.
Yep.
And he is that horse, and I do appreciate that about him. Now, whether he'll still be staying at the end is a question, but he's been facing much tougher company. He's tried a couple of stakes races. He ran in the Grade 3 Fall High Weight handicap. He is one that I believe is getting class relief in a spot like this where you have others that are stepping up to face tougher company. I think that I want him to try to wire this field.
I agree with you. I don't totally trust him. I don't think you do either, but he's going to be a price.
Right.
And I'm with you. I mean, you look at his last race, he chased too wide. The rail was gold. The winner wired on the rail. He was chasing. It's very hard on a gold rail to chase a speed that holds on, especially one that runs that kind of race. His race in the Gravesend was very good, especially relative to these. I don't trust him. I don't trust that his form couldn't leave him, but I'm with you. He's supposed to go. They are getting ready to go to the gate, but we'll get through this. I want to talk about my top choice in here. I really like Lunissima. Am I a little concerned about 6.5 furlongs? Yeah, but I don't really worry about cutting back in distance. Yes, he got a good trip last time, but I will say the bulk of that running was done inside, and I think he's coming out of a super, super tough race. And you want horses dropping? I think he has been quietly facing better horses in tougher situations, and the more I think about it, I think a little bit less distance may help him. I think Lunissima has a real chance in this race, and I like him along with your horse because your horse is a speed and he's a closer, and I like the idea of using both of them.
Fair enough. The hang job last time out, or was it just a really tough field?
I think he just wasn't quite good enough.
Okay.
I mean, I thought about it a lot. I thought he wasn't quite good enough. Neither one of us a big fan of Glory Road, who's going to take money in this race. Thought he had the right field last time. They're going the gate in Dubai. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be back as soon as the Dubai World Cup is over.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Welcome back to Talking Horses. We'll let you calm down after the Dubai World Cup. Thanks to Saratoga Spring Water, by the way, our illustrious sponsor. We appreciate them. Japan,
Shocking,
they're
isn't it?
continuing their domination. You know, that horse of theirs that won the UAE Derby, he's obviously going to get a lot of attention.
Mind
He
Your
probably
Biscuits.
should. Yes, a son of Mind Your Biscuits. Well, he was second in the Whitney. Get a lot of attention in the Derby, and rightfully so, the way these Japan horses are dominating. And Dubai World Cup is an actual World Cup, and that's why I don't like other things being called World Cups without real participation. They have so much participation. Japan made a big announcement, the Breeders' Cup, for those of us that may not have been as aware, and I'm one of them, of how good their horses are. And I think everybody knows now, I just can't bet a horse coming out of that race, coming back in 6 weeks from Dubai. They just haven't run well in the Derby.
I mean, that's absolutely fair enough, but I think that we all are, even if you're still slow to do so, catching on to the fact that Japan horses or Japanese horses are a serious threat to win these American races going forwards. And I know that nobody's necessarily blind to that now, but I mean, it'll be interesting to see.
They just wait 2 weeks to run the Preakness. I'm actually dead serious. Anyway, we got to get on. We only have about 6 minutes left. Race number 9, there were a lot of scratches. We'll show Tough Street. Last time out. She's improved a lot. I don't want to take her at a short price, but I'm going to tell you something. She's running against biases. I'm not against her. She's improving. I just feel like she's meeting some better horses today.
I agree with that, and I think she's a little, I mean, she draws in now closer to the starting gate, or closer to the post 1 because of all of these scratches. She was kind of marooned out in post 11 before, but I mean, she should be close early. She can stalk if need be. I don't have any serious knocks against her. I just don't love that she has been a short price over and over again, and I think there's a little bit of more depth to this field.
I agree, including the horse you have, Movie Moxie, on top, right?
I scratched into her on top, and while her gate issues in the past couple of races.
Well, let's show her race 2 back. I didn't think she broke that badly last time.
I agree with that. The 2 before that, concerning.
Well, this is 2 back. I mean, and it's important to show this because her race 2 back will win this race, especially if she breaks, because that's not her. She's the horse in last. She's actually the horse that gets completely and totally left in this race. So she broke 3 lengths behind the field, but she didn't break that badly last time, so I'm wondering if Linda's straightening her out.
Well, and Linda was able to straighten out the issues with Mama's Gotta Run, who did beat her last time, who had the blinkers go on for her. And this is a horse that I think that even though she wasn't breaking well, she was showing that she was able to overcome those poor starts and at least get herself into contention. And she draws away and wins very well here. Then the other race where she didn't break that well, she ended up finishing second. I mean, she was able to at least not let those affect her performance that much. I just don't love that she has given herself a lot to do, and I don't want to take a horse as a favorite or a second choice that has had those gait issues. However, if she is turning a corner with those, she seems like a very logical contender in here outside of Tough Street.
I think she's a giant contender in here, and just thought she was running against better horses last time out, frankly. Linda was aggressive with her in there. She won the race with the other horse, who I think has been running in terrific form. I know Money Honey improved. She's been, that was sort of when Rob's horses were really running well. I have no issue with her. No issue with either of those horses. I just feel like Mozienko on her best race can win this race, and she's going to get a little ignored because her last race didn't seem that good. But I'm going to tell you something. She can be forward in this race, and you start looking through the race with the scratches in here, there's not exactly an abundance of speed in here suddenly. And I know it's a 3-horse field, and I know she lost this race, but she lost when a horse was able to control up front. This is 2 races back, and she still ran a big figure. And when she runs her good races, she's running figures that are faster than the best horses in this race, and she's going to be the 3rd choice. Now, obviously with the scratches, that price comes down, but I still think she's going to be 7-2 or so in this race. And listen, I've got a big thing for Mozienko. I know people look at a mile, say, well, I don't know, she buried a field at 7 and ran a 93 buyer up in Saratoga. I'm not that worried about it. I'm going to trust in my man, Dennis Lohman.
Does it concern you that she had that huge run of races
Yes.
and then has kind of tailed off a little bit?
Yes.
Okay.
No, that's...
Just making sure.
No, you're absolutely right. Yes. Yeah. No, I agree. She may have gotten good. Now, to be fair, he also gave her a little bit of a freshening. And also, that race fell apart last time. And she wasn't on the rail, and the rail was good. But yes, you're absolutely right. Her run may be over.
If it's not, you get a great price.
I'll get a fair price. I don't know. Great. What's the definition of great?
Well, subjective.
You and I have the same opinion in race number 10. The 2 outside horses, I think to both of us, are just better horses than these. I prefer Black Belt but I don't think either one of us has a major preference. We'll look at No Burns race 2 back. I know he didn't run well last time. That was a super tough race. It does worry me a little that he ran badly, but that was a super tough race, and it's certainly not going to hurt him if the track has gotten wet by this race.
Correct, and I think that you have to be at least maybe a little concerned that there will be some pace pressure as he's kind of sandwiched between Black Belt and Optic Way. However, I mean, he ran a huge race this day. The last race, I think that it might be concerning. However, he did sit right off of Lobster through very fast fractions, and the two of them kind of dissolved late. I don't know that they're going to go quite that fast in here, but like you, I mean, I think it's either the 10 or the 11, or I would be very, very surprised if neither of them run their race.
I agree. I think you've got two horses that are just better than these. I will say King Kublai was pretty close to that pace, and he finished second, so that bothered me a little bit, but I don't disagree. He's had some clunkers. He usually has more of an excuse, though, than his last race. And you look at Black Belt in this race, he ran 3 back, and he beat Expressman. And those who don't remember Expressman, he got a 107 buyer break in his debut as the wrong half of the entry up at Saratoga. And it took him a while to win again. He won his next start. I think his buyer figure went down 2 points. And then they threw him the wolves against Endorsed and Repo Rocks, and he wasn't good enough for them. I don't think he's a 97 horse, but I think he's an 85 to 90 horse, which is good enough to make him tough in this race. And I look at the race, and unless you think this race is going to fall apart, which would hurt them, I mean, who do you take if it falls apart? I guess only Hammer and Hammer, right?
Which is kind of where both of us went for a closer. And I mean, I don't have any super strong opinion with Daddy Knows. I just know that he's been a horse that has been difficult to ride and was really turned around last time going to the Handlebar. And so if he can take another step forward to kind of have that form that he used to have, maybe he's sitting in a position to pick up some pieces. But
He's a speed horse, though.
I don't want to trust.
He's not a pick up the pieces type horse.
And I don't want to trust that he's going to suddenly be the horse that he was in the last race going forwards either against tougher company.
We're going to have to go. The other thing that worries about me is the rail. He's a horse that gets out, and I wonder if breaking the rail is not good for him. Sarah, great job. We're going to have to run. Head over to Naira Bets. If you're not a member of Naira Bets, no better time than the present. Use the promo code BONUS200, matched with $200 initial deposit. We have a middle pick 4. That's in race number 4 today of our 10 race card. 2, 4, and 7 for the pick 4s. We have cross country pick 5. Last 3 here at Aqueduct. 10 and 11, the last 2 from Oaklawn, including their Purple Martin. We have the Derby Bankroll Builder, 50 to win in Louisiana Derby. You'll get $20 win or lose back to the Kentucky Derby. Sarah, thanks again. I'm sure we'll see you soon. Right now, Chris Griffin. He's up next. Reprise, Scratches and Changes. Have a great day.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Aqueduct. Track is fast. 10 races on today's program. Here are today's scratches and changes. Race 1 is the start of the early pick 5. The 1 is 1 pound over. The 2 is +1. The 3